The ESS Pathfinder emerged from its final warp jump into the Proxima Centauri system, humanity's first interstellar colony ship carrying 10,000 souls toward their new home. Captain Lisa Martinez stood on the bridge, her dark eyes fixed on the viewscreen as it adjusted to the star's crimson glare. The sight that greeted them wasn't the empty frontier they'd expected, but rather a sprawling space station of clearly alien design. Multiple structures detected, her sensor officer reported, voice tight with tension. They're hailing us, Captain. The first contact protocols they'd rehearsed suddenly felt inadequate. Humanity had prepared for many scenarios, but finding an established alien presence at their intended colony site wasn't one of them. The alien transmission came through in surprisingly clear English. They'd obviously been studying Earth's broadcasts. Human vessel, maintain your distance. This is observation post Theta 9 of the Galactic Council. We've been monitoring your species. Dr. Sarah Chen, the ship's chief xenobiologist, leaned forward at her station. Captain, their energy readings are unusual. Those aren't standard shield configurations. They're more like containment fields pointing outward. Like a zoo cage in reverse, Martins murmured. They're not keeping something in. We're keeping something out, the alien voice finished, having overheard their exchange. Your species presents unique concerns. The following hours were a blur of diplomatic exchanges and cultural misunderstandings. The aliens, a mix of species calling themselves the Galactic Council, invited a small delegation aboard their station. Dr. Chen led the scientific team, while Martinez headed the diplomatic contingent. The station's architecture immediately struck them as odd. Reinforced barriers everywhere, pressure-sealed compartments, and surveillance systems that seemed oriented toward detecting approaching threats rather than monitoring internal spaces. The aliens themselves were even more surprising. Most were herbivorous or filter-feeding species. Their bodies evolved for flight rather than fight. The true revelation came during what was intended to be a friendly diplomatic dinner. Dr. Chen watched in fascination as their hosts produced elaborate filtration systems for their meals, delicately extracting nutrients from specialized solutions. Would you care to sample our traditional greeting feast? The station's commander, a tall, willowy being named Zixtel, offered. The human delegation accepted graciously. What happened next would go down in galactic history. The humans casually consumed foods that would have been lethal to 90% of known species. They chewed and digested solid matter, their powerful stomach acids breaking down complex proteins and toxins that would have killed their hosts instantly. Impossible, Zixtal whispered, their crystalline form vibrating with what Chen later realized was terror. You metabolize complex proteins. You consume organic matter directly. Well, yes, Chen replied, pausing with her fork halfway to her mouth. We're omnivores. We can digest most organic matter, and our bodies can neutralize a wide range of toxins. The revelation sent shockwaves through the station. Emergency meetings were called. Security protocols were heightened. Chen began to understand why as she accessed the station's xenobiological database. In a galaxy of specialized digestive systems and cautious herbivores, humanity's adaptable digestive system and predatory capabilities made them something unprecedented. Your species, Zixtal explained during an emergency council session, possesses traits we thought were mutually exclusive in intelligent life. You have the endurance of persistence hunters, the pack coordination of social predators, and the adaptable metabolism of scavengers. You can eat almost anything, survive in almost any environment, and you never, ever stop pursuing your prey. Martinez watched the alien council members shift uncomfortably in their seats. Surely other predator species have evolved intelligence. None that combined all these traits, another council member chittered. The few predator species that achieved spacefaring status were specialized hunters, ambush predators, or trapmakers. But your kind, you represent every successful predatory strategy combined into one species. It should be impossible. The implications slowly sank in. Humanity hadn't just achieved spacefaring status. They had done so while retaining capabilities that most species lost during their evolution toward intelligence. They were, in the most literal sense, an impossible species. As the first day of contact drew to a close, Dr. Chen made one final, startling observation. The station's defensive systems weren't designed to protect against military threats. They were designed to contain biological ones. The Galactic Council hadn't been studying humanity out of scientific curiosity. They'd been monitoring Earth like one might monitor a sleeping predator. And now, humanity was awake. Captain Martinez sent her final report of the day to Earth. First contact achieved. Status: complex. Humanity's position: classified as potential apex predator species. Recommend careful diplomatic approach. Additional note: Dr. Chen suggests we refrain from mentioning our recreational hunting activities for the time being. In their quarters that night, Chen and Martinez discussed the implications of their discovery. They weren't just entering a new frontier, they were introducing an apex predator into an ecosystem that had forgotten what it meant to be hunted. The question wasn't whether humanity would change the galaxy, but how dramatically that change would come. The stars seemed different that night, viewed through the station's reinforced windows. Humanity had dreamed of finding its place among them. They just never expected that place would be at the very top of the galactic food chain. The Galactic Council's emergency session was interrupted by screams of terror. On the main view screen, a recording from Earth played. Thousands of humans, moving in sustained motion for hours, their bodies covered in sweat, relentlessly pushing forward mile after mile. "What kind of military training is this?" demanded Counselor Vexna, their tentacles writhing in distress. Dr. Sarah Chen cleared her throat. "That's not military training. It's the New York Marathon. It's entertainment." The silence that followed was deafening. The concept of running for pleasure was so alien to these species that their translation matrices initially rejected the input as an error. "You mean," Zixtal's crystalline form vibrated with disbelief, "your species deliberately engages in persistence hunting for fun?" Chen had spent the last week studying the physiological differences between humans and council species. None of them had evolved the efficient sweating mechanisms that allowed humans to regulate their temperature during extended physical activity. The idea of running until prey collapsed from exhaustion was, to them, like something out of a horror story. The Council's worst fears were realized when an emergency distress call came in from a research vessel in the Orion sector. The ship had gone silent 3 days ago, and the Council was preparing a standard search pattern. Then humanity offered to help. Captain Miguel Rivera led the human search and rescue team. While the Council vessels methodically scanned predetermined sectors, Rivera's team did something that terrified their alien observers. They hunted. "The plasma trail curves here," Rivera pointed out, studying sensor readings that the Council ships had dismissed as insignificant. They were running low on fuel, stressed. When prey is stressed, they make mistakes. "Prey," a Council observer squeaked. "They're our colleagues." Figure of speech, Rivera apologized, but the damage was done. The aliens watched in fascination and horror as the human team tracked their quarry across 3 star systems, following clues that seemed impossibly subtle. Slight gravitational disturbances, trace radiation patterns, even the psychological profile of the missing ship's captain. "They would have turned here," Rivera explained, pointing to an unremarkable sector of space. The captain's background shows she served in the Proxima Defense Force. They trained their pilots to favor gravitational slingshot maneuvers. She would have seen this binary system as an opportunity. He was right. They found the disabled research vessel exactly where Rivera predicted, its crew safe but stranded after a critical engine failure. The Council observers were shocked not by the rescue itself, but by how the humans had accomplished it. "You didn't just search," Zixtal noted during the debriefing. "You understood your prey. You thought like them, predicted their actions, track them through empty space using intuition that shouldn't exist in a spacefaring race. Dr. Chen's research team made another discovery that week. The council species had evolved directly from prey animals. None of them had gone through the evolutionary phase of being pursuit predators. Their civilizations had developed through hiding, cooperation, and tool use, but they had never experienced the evolutionary pressure that turned humans into persistent hunters. The implications were staggering. Humanity hadn't just retained their predatory instincts, they had refined them. Every human technological advancement, from simple spears to faster-than-light travel, had been influenced by those hunting instincts. The Council's fears deepened when they accessed Earth's historical records. Human hunting strategies had evolved from simple pursuit to complex group coordination, from basic tools to elaborate traps, from physical tracking to psychological warfare. And they had never lost those abilities. They had enhanced them with technology. Your species, a council analyst reported, doesn't just hunt with your bodies. You hunt with your minds. You can track prey across star systems using mathematics. You can predict behavior using psychology. You've turned hunting into a science. The situation reached a critical point when a human child, visiting the council station with their parents, initiated a game of tag. The simple act of one human playfully chasing another triggered station-wide panic. Emergency containment protocols activated automatically, interpreting the chase as a predator-prey scenario. Dr. Chen spent hours explaining that chase games were a natural part of human childhood development, teaching coordination, strategy, and social bonds. The council found this even more disturbing. Human children were literally practicing to be predators while playing. Captain Rivera's team was called to more search and rescue operations. Each success only heightened the council's unease. Humans weren't just good at finding lost ships, they seemed to enjoy the challenge. The hunt itself was as important as the rescue. "We need to make a decision," Zixtal announced in a closed council session. Humanity has proven both their capabilities and their willingness to help. But they've also shown that their predatory nature isn't just physical. It's deeply ingrained in their psychology, their culture, even their recreation. The council voted to maintain diplomatic relations, but with a caveat. Human expansion would be carefully monitored, not to protect humanity from the galaxy, as they had originally planned, but to protect the galaxy from humanity's hunting instincts. As Dr. Chen reviewed the council's decision, she couldn't help but smile at the irony. Humanity had spent centuries wondering if they were alone in the universe, only to discover that they were the very thing other species had evolved to fear. The ultimate pursuit predator, now armed with technology and unleashed upon the stars. The hunt that had begun on Earth's ancient savannas was about to continue across the galaxy, and humanity, for better or worse, would never stop pursuing their destiny among the stars. The Galactic Council's worst fears about humanity were temporarily forgotten when reports of the swarm first arrived. 12 star systems had gone dark in rapid succession, their biospheres stripped bare by an unknown hostile force that seemed to consume everything in its path. Dr. Sarah Chen was reviewing footage from the latest attack when she noticed something others had missed. The swarm wasn't just consuming biomass. It was evolving with each encounter. Their attacks showed clear patterns of adaptation, learning from each defeat and coming back stronger. "These aren't mindless consumers," she announced to the emergency council session. "You're not fighting an invasion. You're fighting prey animals that learn to hunt." The revelation sent shockwaves through the council. The swarm's behavior suddenly made sense. They operated like a species that had evolved from filter feeders, but developed predatory traits. Their consumption wasn't just about sustenance, it was about adaptation and survival. Meanwhile, humanity's integration into galactic society was producing its own startling revelations. A human construction worker named James Rodriguez made headlines when he survived a toxic gas leak by holding his breath for 5 minutes, something the council species had thought physiologically impossible. "How did you survive that long without breathing?" a council medical officer demanded. Rodriguez shrugged. "Free diving, hottie. Personal best is 7 minutes. The incident sparked new research into human capabilities. Council scientists discovered that humans possessed an extraordinary number of survival traits that their own species had lost during evolution. The ability to enter a semi-suspended state, to function on minimal resources, to adapt to extreme conditions. But it was the psychological differences that truly terrified them. A human security officer spotted a maintenance flaw that would have caused a catastrophic station failure, not through any technical knowledge, but through what she called predator's intuition. She had sensed something was wrong in the same way her ancestors had sensed a stalking tiger. The council was still grappling with these revelations when the swarm struck again. This time, they displayed new tactics. They had begun targeting defensive installations first, showing strategic planning that hadn't been present before. They were learning, evolving, becoming more like predators with each attack. Dr. Chen's team made a breakthrough in understanding the swarm's nature. They're using the consumed biomass to fuel rapid evolution, she explained. Each whirl they devour adds to their genetic library. They're not just eating. They're absorbing evolutionary traits. The Council's traditional military tactics prove useless against an enemy that could adapt to any weapon. Energy shields. The swarm evolved to phase through them. Plasma weapons. They developed heat-resistant carapaces. Conventional explosives. They learned to disperse and reform. Your weapons are failing because you're thinking like prey, Captain Miguel Rivera observed during a strategy session. You're developing better defenses, better ways to hide, better ways to survive. But that's not how you stop a predator. Then how do you stop them? Zix Tall demanded. You hunt them, Rivera replied simply. And humans, we've been hunting since before we had names for the stars. The Council reluctantly agreed to let humanity take the lead in military planning. What followed was a complete paradigm shift in how the galaxy approached warfare. Humans introduced concepts that had never occurred to the Council species: ambush tactics, psychological warfare, and most importantly, the art of tracking prey. The first major test of human hunting strategies came when a swarm fleet threatened the Arcturus sector. Instead of meeting them with traditional defenses, human commanders set an elaborate trap. They made a valuable world appear vulnerable, laying false trails, and leaked intelligence reports. When the swarm took the bait, they found themselves caught in a carefully planned killing ground. Human ships didn't just fight. They hunted, coordinating their attacks with a precision that came from millions of years of pack hunting encoded in their DNA. The victory was decisive, but it came with an unexpected consequence. The swarm hadn't just been defeated, they had been taught a lesson about true predation. And like all successful prey species, they would learn and adapt. Dr. Chen found herself working late into the night, studying the swarm's rapid evolution patterns. She couldn't shake the feeling that humanity had just initiated something unprecedented. An evolutionary arms race between two species with the capacity for rapid adaptation. One born to hunt, the other learning to hunt. The Council watched with growing unease as humanity's influence spread through their military forces. Other species began adopting human tactics, learning to think like predators for the first time in their evolutionary history. The galaxy was changing, becoming more dangerous, more primitive, more alive. We may have made a terrible mistake, one council member whispered during a private session. In our fear of the swarm, we've awakened something far more dangerous, the predator that sleeps in every species past. But as reports of successful hunts against the swarm continued to pour in, another truth became clear. The galaxy needed predators. It needed species that understood the delicate balance between hunter and prey, between power and restraint. It needed humanity. The hunt had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. Captain Miguel Rivera stood before the Galactic Council's War Committee, his expression grim as he presented what many considered a primitive solution to their most advanced threat. The holoprojector displayed Earth's prehistoric hunters taking down mammoths, not exactly the high-tech presentation the Council had expected. Your species hunted these creatures to extinction. Zixtal's crystalline form shimmered with disbelief. With pointed sticks, spears, Rivera corrected, and strategy. We didn't just hunt them, we outsmarted them. Now I propose we do the same to the swarm. The council chamber erupted in overlapping arguments. The idea of applying primitive hunting techniques to space warfare seemed absurd. But Rivera's next words silenced the room. The swarm adapts to technology, but they've never faced something as primitive and as sophisticated as human hunting strategies. They can't adapt to what they can't comprehend. Within a week, Rivera had assembled the first human hunting pack, a specialized military unit combining Earth's most ancient hunting techniques with cutting-edge technology. His team included trackers, strategists, and what he called instinct specialists, people with an uncanny ability to predict prey behavior. Their first mission targeted a swarm-high ship. Traditional military doctrine would have called for a frontal assault with overwhelming force. Instead, Rivera's team approached it like prehistoric humans hunting dangerous prey. First rule of hunting something bigger than you, Rivera briefed his team. Make it hunt you. They deployed drones programmed to mimic injured prey vessels, creating a trail of apparent vulnerabilities. The swarm, unable to resist such easy targets, followed the bait. Each pursuit led them further from their defensive positions, deeper into territory that Rivera's team had prepared. Second rule, Rivera continued over the comm as the swarm took the bait. Control the environment. His team had spent days seeding the local space with gravitational anomalies and subspace distortions. To traditional military sensors, it looked like natural phenomena. But Rivera's team had arranged them like prehistoric hunters arranging stones to guide mammoth herds toward cliff edges. The hunt reached its climax when the swarm found themselves trapped in a region of space where their adaptive abilities worked against them. The more they evolved to deal with one environmental hazard, the more vulnerable they became to others. Final rule, Rivera announced as his team moved in for the kill. Never waste energy fighting. Let the prey exhaust itself. The swarm, panicked and confused, expended massive amounts of energy trying to adapt to multiple threats simultaneously. When Rivera's team finally struck, it was devastating. The high ship, already strained from constant adaptation, couldn't defend against the precisely coordinated attack. News of the victory spread quickly, but it was the method that shocked the council. Rivera's team had deliberately triggered a localized supernova to trap their prey, a level of calculated destruction that terrified both allies and enemies. You used a stellar explosion as a hunting tool. A council member's voice quavered during the debriefing. Early humans used fire to drive prey, Rivera explained calmly. Same principle, different scale. Dr. Chen, observing the debriefing, noted how the council members unconsciously shifted away from Rivera as he spoke. It wasn't just the victory that disturbed them. It was the casual way humans approached wholesale destruction as a hunting tactic. The success led to the formation of more hunting packs, each specializing in different prey behavior patterns exhibited by the swarm. Some teams focused on ambush tactics, others on psychological warfare. One team even managed to turn a black hole's accretion disk into what Rivera called the ultimate hunting blind. But the most significant change was in how the galaxy viewed warfare. The council species had always approached space combat as a technological challenge. Humans showed them it was also a primal one, drawing on instincts and strategies that predated civilization itself. Your species, Zixtal noted during a private conversation with Rivera, doesn't just use technology. You hunt with it. Every ship, every weapon, every tactic is just an extension of your predatory nature. Rivera couldn't disagree. Humanity had spent its entire history refining its hunting capabilities. Now those skills, honed over millions of years of evolution and thousands of years of technological development, were being unleashed on a galactic scale. The swarm began to show signs of changing their behavior. They became more cautious, more strategic in their attacks. They were learning to fear, and that fear was changing them. But they were also learning from their hunters, adapting in ways that would soon force humanity to confront an uncomfortable truth. They were teaching their prey to become predators. As Rivera prepared his team for their next hunt, he couldn't help but wonder if the galaxy was ready for what humanity had unleashed. They had proven themselves the apex predators of space, but with that title came a responsibility they were only beginning to understand. The Centaurian battle group moved through space in a perfect hunting formation, their ships arranged in a pattern that would have been instantly recognizable to any wolf pack on Earth. Dr. Sarah Chen watched the tactical display with a mixture of pride and concern as the alien fleet executed a textbook example of cooperative hunting behavior. "They've been studying Earth's predators," she noted to Captain Rivera. "And not just studying. They're embodying them." The transformation had begun gradually. After witnessing the success of human hunting techniques against the swarm, various council species had begun exploring Earth's biological history. What started as military research had evolved into something far more profound, a cultural awakening of dormant predatory instincts. The Arcturian Defense Fleet had been the first to adapt, modeling their strategies on orcapod hunting behaviors. Their ships would work in perfect coordination to create artificial gravity waves, literally swimming through space to disorient and trap their prey. The success of their tactics sparked a renaissance in military thinking across the galaxy. "It's not just about copying the movements," Rivera explained to a gathering of alien commanders. "It's about understanding the mindset. Earth's pack hunters succeeded because they thought collectively, acted individually, and adapted constantly. The council species, long removed from their evolutionary origins as prey animals, were rediscovering aspects of their psychology that had lain dormant for millions of years." Dr. Chen's research team documented unprecedented changes in brain activity among aliens who participated in human-style hunting exercises. "Their neural patterns are shifting," she reported to the council. "Areas of the brain associated with spatial awareness, tactical planning, and predatory behavior are becoming more active. It's as if these capabilities were always there, just waiting to be awakened." The implications were staggering. Species that had evolved as peaceful herbivores were developing predatory instincts through cultural exchange with humans. The galaxy was witnessing evolution through education rather than natural selection. The swarm encountered this new reality during an attack on a Centaurian colony. Expecting the usual defensive response, they instead found themselves facing a coordinated pack of ships that moved with predatory precision. The Centaurians had even modified their vessels' energy signatures to mimic the bioelectric fields of wolf packs. "They're not just fighting anymore," an observer noted. "They're hunting." The swarm's response was unprecedented. They retreated. For the first time in their history, they showed signs of genuine fear. The emotional response was something their purely instinctual nature had never prepared them for. But the awakening of predatory instincts across the galaxy had unexpected consequences. Species that had lived in peaceful cooperation for millennia began showing more aggressive tendencies. Trade disputes that would once have been settled through negotiation now carried undertones of territorial behavior. "We've opened Pandora's box," Dr. Chen warned during an emergency council session. "These species are rediscovering capabilities that were suppressed during their evolution toward civilization. We're not just teaching them to hunt, we're rewriting their psychological evolution." The situation reached a critical point when a Rigelian fleet, traditionally known for their peaceful nature, successfully executed a hunting maneuver that resulted in the complete destruction of a swarm hive cluster. The victory was celebrated, but the level of aggression displayed by the traditionally docile species sent shockwaves through the council. "Your species has changed us," Zixtal confronted Rivera. "You've awakened something in us that we're not sure we can control." Rivera's response was characteristically direct. "Being a predator isn't about losing control. It's about mastering it. Earth's apex predators don't kill needlessly. They hunt with purpose, maintain balance, and protect their territory." The message resonated. The council species began to understand that predatory behavior didn't have to mean unchecked aggression. Under human guidance, they started developing what Rivera called conscious predation, the ability to access their predatory instincts while maintaining their civilized nature. Dr. Chen's final report on the transformation included an observation that would become famous throughout the galaxy. Humanity's greatest gift to the universe wasn't teaching others how to hunt. It was teaching them how to balance the predator and the philosopher within themselves. The swarm, meanwhile, continued to evolve in response to these changes. But now they faced not just human hunters, but an entire galaxy of species rediscovering their predatory heritage. The hunt had become more than a military strategy. It had become a catalyst for galactic evolution. As newly awakened predator species emerged, humanity found itself in an unexpected role. Not just hunters, but teachers, showing the galaxy how to embrace its primitive strength while maintaining its civilized wisdom. The age of the prey was ending, and a new era of balanced predation was beginning. The emergency alarms across the Galactic Council station blared as footage from the frontier streamed in. The swarm's latest attack pattern had changed dramatically. They were now displaying unmistakable signs of persistence hunting, tracking their prey across vast distances of space with terrifying determination. "They've done it," Dr. Chen whispered, her face pale as she analyzed the data. "They've copied our predatory traits." The council chamber erupted into chaos. Species that had only recently begun exploring their own predatory potential now faced an enemy that had somehow accelerated its evolution to match humanity's hunting capabilities. The swarm wasn't just adapting anymore. They were transforming. Captain Rivera studied the tactical displays with a grim expression. The swarm now moved in coordinated groups, using pack tactics that mirrored Earth's most successful predators. They had even developed the ability to track ships through subspace, much like how ancient humans had tracked prey through scent trails. "This is what we feared." Zixtal's crystalline form pulsed with anxiety. "We've taught them to be predators." But Rivera noticed something the others had missed. "No," he said, his eyes narrowing. "They've copied our physical abilities, but they're missing something crucial. They're still thinking like prey." He demonstrated his point by pulling up multiple engagement recordings. The swarm had indeed mastered persistence hunting and pack behavior, but their actions were purely instinctual. They couldn't adapt their strategies mid-hunt or devise new tactics on the fly. "Any species can evolve claws," Rivera declared, his words quickly becoming a rallying cry across human forces. "Only humans evolved war." Dr. Chen's research team made a breakthrough in understanding the difference. The swarm could copy physical traits through rapid evolution, but they couldn't replicate humanity's most dangerous predatory characteristic, abstract thinking. They could learn to hunt, but they couldn't learn to strategize. Humanity launched a new campaign that played to this crucial difference. Instead of direct confrontations, they began deploying elaborate deceptions, false retreat patterns, fake distress signals, and complex ambush strategies that required understanding of psychological warfare, concepts the swarm couldn't grasp. "We're not just hunting with our bodies," Rivera explained to his combined human-alien fleet. "We're hunting with our minds. Every feint, every trap, every deception is a product of millions of years of cognitive evolution." The turning point came during the Battle of Arcturus Gate. The swarm arrived in force, displaying their newly acquired predatory capabilities. They moved like wolves in space, coordinated and lethal. But they found themselves facing something entirely different. Human forces had prepared a multi-layered trap that required understanding of not just tactical movement, but strategic thinking. They had seeded the battlefield with false opportunities and subtle misdirections. The swarm, despite their physical adaptations, fell for every one of them. "Watch," Rivera commanded his alien allies. "This is the difference between copying predatory traits and truly being a predator." The swarm forces, drawn in by apparent weaknesses, found themselves caught in a constantly shifting maze of tactical deceptions. Each time they adapted to one threat, they walked right into another. Their inability to understand abstract strategy became their greatest weakness. Your species, Zixtal noted to Dr. Chen during the battle, doesn't just hunt with instinct. You hunt with imagination. The victory was decisive, but it came with its own revelations. The council species, watching humans demonstrate the difference between physical and cognitive predation, began to understand that their own awakening predatory instincts were just the beginning. True predation required more than just the ability to hunt. It required the ability to think like a hunter. We've been teaching them how to move like predators, Chen realized. Now we need to teach them how to think like predators. The implications were profound. The galaxy wasn't just experiencing a physical evolution, but a cognitive one. Species that had spent millions of years thinking like prey were learning not just to hunt, but to understand the hunt. Rivera's famous quote became a teaching principle across the galaxy. The difference between a hunter and a predator is that a hunter follows instinct, a predator creates strategy. As the swarm retreated to reconsider their approach, the galaxy entered a new phase of its transformation. Under human guidance, species began developing not just the physical tools of predation, but the mental framework required for true hunting behavior. The hunt had evolved from a physical contest to a battle of minds, and in this new arena, humanity's greatest weapon wasn't their strength or speed. It was their ability to imagine new ways of hunting, new strategies of predation, new concepts that no amount of physical evolution could copy. The galaxy was learning that being an apex predator wasn't about being the strongest or the fastest. It was about being the smartest hunter in the cosmic forest. The swarm's massive fleet appeared at the edge of the solar system, their bioships darkening the space between Mars and Jupiter. Their desperate gambit was clear: destroy humanity at its source, and the galaxy's transformation into a predator society would crumble. What they found waiting for them was beyond their worst evolutionary nightmares. "Welcome to Earth," Captain Rivera's transmission cut through their bioelectric communications. Humanity's hunting grounds. The first line of defense wasn't military ships or orbital platforms. Instead, the swarm encountered something their rapid evolution couldn't process: Earth's uplifted predators, enhanced and ready for space warfare. Packs of neo-wolves, their bodies augmented with space-worthy adaptations and neural interfaces, coordinated with human ground forces. Their ancient hunting patterns, perfected over millions of years of evolution, now applied to three-dimensional space combat with devastating effectiveness. Dr. Chen watched from the Lunar Command Center as the first wave of enhanced eagles took flight. Their wings had been modified to generate energy shields, their eyes augmented to track quantum signatures. They soared through the vacuum of space with the same deadly grace their ancestors had shown in Earth's skies. Humanity didn't just master predation, she explained to the stunned council observers. We created an entire ecosystem of hunters. The oceans themselves seemed to come alive as modified marine predators joined the fight. Pods of enhanced orcas, their bodies protected by biomechanical shells, created complex sonic weapons that disrupted the swarm's hive-mind communication. Great whites, transformed into living torpedoes, struck with prehistoric fury enhanced by modern technology. Your species, Zixtal marveled, didn't just prepare for war. You evolved your entire planet into a weapon. The swarm's first attack wave encountered what seemed impossible: an entire planet of apex predators, each species bringing millions of years of hunting experience to bear. Every environmental niche, from the deepest oceans to the highest atmosphere, had been turned into a hunting ground. Human military forces coordinated this symphony of predation with practiced ease. They had spent years training with their uplifted partners, combining human strategic thinking with pure predatory instinct. Each species brought its unique hunting style to the battle. Enhanced wolves demonstrated pack tactics that made the swarm's copy behaviors look primitive in comparison. They moved through space like their ancestors had moved through forests, turning three-dimensional combat into a deadly dance of coordinated strikes. The eagles proved especially effective against the swarm's smaller units. Their enhanced vision could track quantum fluctuations, allowing them to predict where enemy ships would emerge from subspace. Their attacks came from impossible angles, using solar winds like their ancestors had used thermal updrafts. But it was the oceans that truly demonstrated Earth's mastery of predation. The modified marine predators turned Earth's waters into a deadly trap. Any swarm unit that ventured too close found itself facing millions of years of evolved hunting behavior, enhanced by technology, but driven by pure instinct. "This is why we're the apex predators," Rivera commented as he coordinated another wolf pack strike. "We didn't just master hunting. We taught others to hunt alongside us." The swarm's hive mind struggled to process what it was facing. Their copied predatory traits were meaningless against creatures that had spent their entire evolutionary history perfecting the art of hunting. Every adaptation they developed was met by countermeasures that seemed to emerge from the planet itself. Dr. Chen's research team monitored the battle from their lunar facility, documenting how each Earth species contributed its unique hunting style to the defense. "We're witnessing the ultimate expression of Earth's evolutionary history," she noted. "Every predatory adaptation our planet ever developed, working in concert." The turning point came when the swarm attempted to adapt to this overwhelming predatory pressure. Their rapid evolution, usually their greatest strength, became their undoing. Trying to counter so many different hunting strategies simultaneously caused cascading failures in their biological systems. "They're experiencing evolutionary overload," Chen reported, watching the swarm ships begin to break formation. "They can't adapt to everything at once." The retreat, when it came, was chaotic. The swarm had never faced anything like Earth's coordinated ecosystem of hunters. They had copied human predatory traits, but found themselves facing something far more profound. An entire planet where every species had mastered its own form of predation. As the last swarm ships fled the solar system, pursued by packs of space-adapted wolves and squadrons of enhanced eagles, the Council observers finally understood the true meaning of Earth's evolutionary history. Humanity hadn't just evolved as predators. They had shaped their entire world into a crucible of predation, and then elevated it to the stars. "Your planet," Zixtal said to Rivera, as they watched the enhanced predators return from the hunt, "isn't just a world. It's the ultimate hunting ground." The message to the galaxy was clear. Earth wasn't just humanity's homeworld. It was a planet of apex predators, each species contributing its own ancient hunting wisdom to the defense of their shared home. The swarm had come expecting to find one predatory species. Instead, they had faced an entire world that had spent billions of years perfecting the art of the hunt. The galaxy changed forever after the Battle of Earth. The Galactic Council, once fearful of humanity's predatory nature, made an unprecedented decision. They would relocate their headquarters to Earth's orbit. As Zixtal explained to the assembled species, the safest place in the galaxy is under the protection of its apex predators. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the podium of the new council chamber, presenting her landmark paper on humanity's role in galactic evolution. The chamber itself reflected the transformation, designed not to contain threats, but to celebrate the balance between predator and prey, strength and wisdom. Humanity's gift to the galaxy wasn't just teaching others to hunt, she explained, her words transmitted across thousands of worlds. It was teaching them the responsibility that comes with being a predator. The evidence was everywhere. Species that had awakened their predatory instincts under human guidance were now developing their own unique approaches to maintaining cosmic balance. The Centaurians had become space-faring shepherds, using their newfound hunting abilities to protect smaller civilizations. The Arcturians had transformed their defense fleet into what they called the galaxy's immune system. Captain Rivera, now Admiral Rivera, led the combined predator forces, a mixture of human, uplifted Earth species, and awakened alien hunters. Their mission had evolved from pure military defense to something more profound, teaching newly emerging predator species how to balance their power with responsibility.